66:5, he said, "For behold, the Lord will come with fire, and with his chariots like a whirlwind, to render his anger with fury, and his rebuke with flames of fire. For by fire and by the sword will the Lord plead with all flesh, and the slain of the Lord shall be many." Prophet Joel very soberly penned these words in Joel 3:9-10. "Proclaim ye among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords, and pruning hooks into spears, and let the weak say, I am strong." Wars and rumors of wars abound. Nations are rising up against nations. Kingdoms are rising up against kingdoms. Check. Now let's talk about a wedding. You have a wedding in your future. You've been invited to the wedding. Now how many of you, we know there's a big difference between being invited to the wedding and going to the wedding. Just the word wedding, you know, men just want to start yawning because they just think it's going to be the most boring thing because they're not into the dresses and the flowers and the ambiance. They're just like, I can't believe I'm being thrown to this. Boredom. Well, I will assure you this will be no ordinary wedding, and you are invited to it. This wedding is called the marriage feast of the Lamb. Jesus tells about this wedding in a parable in Matthew 22:1-14. He says, "The kingdoms of heaven may be compared to a king who gave a great wedding feast for his son. And he sent out his slaves to all those who had been invited to the wedding feast, and they were unwilling to come. Again he sent out other slaves, saying, Tell those who have been invited, Behold, I have prepared my dinner. My oxen are fattened, my cattle's ready, they're butchered, everything's ready. Come to the wedding." But they paid no attention, and they went their way, one to his own farm and another to his business. And the rest seized his slaves and mistreated them and killed them. Now this parable was meant for the ears of the Jewish people, because Yeshua was offering them an invitation to the wedding. It was their wedding invitation to receive him as the Messiah and to dwell with him forever as his bride. Now, to fully understand this marriage feast of the Lamb, I need to talk to you about an ancient Jewish wedding. Now, when you see these steps to an ancient Jewish wedding, you're going to get the picture. All right, let's see what's going on. Step number 1. The groom's father, not the groom, the groom's father made and approved a choice of bride for the groom. Step 2, the groom then makes a covenant or a contract at the betrothal or engagement party. Step 3, the groom pays a price to the bride to show her he's serious about the proposal. Step 4, the groom makes a speech, and in this speech he promises the bride he's going to return and claim her. Step 5, the bride either rejects or accepts the proposal. If the bride accepts, she drinks from this cup of wine. And the church as a whole, all I can say is get on with it. Don't allow false doctrine in the church. Do the things Christ said we should be doing. Feed the hungry, clothe the naked, visit the sick, visit those in prison, provide for the homeless, care for the widows, care for the orphans, pray for each other, your pastor, the president, and all who are in authority over you. Encourage one another. Confess your sins. Be accountable. Confess your sins one to another. If you see a brother in a sin, in love, go to him. Try to help him. Because we don't know the hour that he's coming, but we want to be prepared. We can understand when we see these signs, we are to get ready. We are to watch for his coming. We are to pray often that we're found worthy to escape what's coming upon the earth. And that word escape in the Greek, when it's translated, means vanish. We're going to pray to vanish. And number 3, live a Christian lifestyle. Keep your veil on. We are to encourage each other with the words of the rapture in 1 Thessalonians 4:17-18. Then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air, and so shall we ever be with the Lord. Therefore, comfort one another with the words of the rapture. And for those of you who are not familiar with the word or term rapture, I cover that in the book in chapter 3, Reactions to the Rapture. The clock is ticking. You will recognize these words. I'm late for a very important date. No time to say hello, goodbye, I'm late. That was a White Rabbit out of the 1951 version of Alice in Wonderland. That was one busy hare. He was always in a hurry. He lived by the clock. One can almost hear the whirring and the swishing as he races by. And for many of us, this mad activity is all too familiar. We are such slaves to the clock, and yet we don't know what time it is. I heard a commercial about Comcast on TV. It went like this. It said, at 9:17 today, the future arrived earlier than expected. And I thought, oh my God, one day the future is going to arrive for all of us. Could it be earlier than we have expected that it would come? Many people like I are very busy. I keep a tight schedule. I'm constantly aware of the time. Looking at the clock is secondhand to me. I have a to-do list. I like to make little squares, and then I like to put X's in the box after I've done something with my big red pen. I like to put a star if it's especially important to me. You'll see 2 stars next to the hair appointment. I also add to the list if I've done something that wasn't on the original list, because I want to get credit for it, so I put it down on the list and exit after I've done it. I live by the list. But I have another list I'm living by. It's called 40 Reasons Why We Could Be the Generation. And you can find this short list in the book On the Brink of the Rapture, as well as the long list explaining each one. You see, while I have my daily to-do list, I'm constantly aware of another clock. It's God's clock, and I can hear it ticking. And the ticking is getting louder and louder as this world is being thrust to its climax of the worst and best days, a war and a wedding. There are even times when I think I can hear this ticking getting faster and faster as God looks down on this once awesome creation as he did just before the flood. And he watches as the human race races to destroy itself. God is holy. God is pure, and he cannot tolerate sin. He had to turn his back away from his only son, who was dying on the cross, because he could not be in the presence of the sins of the world as they were being piled and loaded onto his son's beaten and bloody back, the weight of the sin borne by his outstretched, nail-scarred hands. And he'll have to turn his back on you too if your sins are not covered by the blood, if you don't have on the proper garment for the wedding. We have pushed the envelope. Now the envelope is about to rip. There are many days that we know what's happening, but we don't know what's going on. But this isn't because we haven't been told. What is going on is God is bringing the church age to a close, and we who know his son will soon be enjoying the marriage feast. What is going on is God is living up to his word. What's going on is God is warning everyone who will listen, and he's saying, last call. When the last person to do so, who would do so, has confessed their sins and asked mercy from a loving God, when that last person has walked the centered aisle to give their life to Christ, when that last person has looked up with eager eyes, then when the bridal chamber is ready and the father says, son, go get the bride, then he's coming for those who are prepared for his coming, who are waiting and watching for his coming. And there will be a new clock. This clock will have exactly 7 years worth of hours, minutes, and seconds on it. No more, no less. And at the end of that clock, this tall,